Hello and welcome to a new edition of True Audio Files. So as you see in the description, today I am going to be going over Bitches Brew. And the main reason for doing this today is because of the new One Step that has come out by Mobile Fidelity, which is right here. Got my copy fresh off the presses. I got number 415 out of, it looks like 5,000 that are being pressed. So what I really wanted to focus on mainly on this particular episode is how it compares to the earlier standard edition of Bitches Brew on a standard, standard pressing, standard audiophile pressing of it on Mobile Fidelity. This one is number 59, I think 31 or something like that. So I believe it's the same digital transfer that was used for both of them. I don't know that for certain, but that is my assumption. So I wanted to see how big of a difference, if there was a difference anyways, between the two copies of those. And I will tell you also that I do also have a first pressing of the album, and I'm not going to do any in-depth comparisons between this one and the others for this reason. I don't have a video about it, but before I started doing videos, I kind of did a shootout between this first pressing and the Mobile Fidelity, original Mobile Fidelity, and I found that I liked the original Mobile Fidelity better. I felt it had kind of a really nice warmth and clarity to it, and better soundstage to it. So I preferred it. So I'm going to just stick to the differences between the standard Mobile Fidelity and the One Step. So to kind of also go back about a little bit of how I go about these sound quality shootouts, typically what I do, and it's certainly the case here, is I will listen to the new release that's come out all the way through. And basic reasons for that is just to get an idea of what the new one sounds like, but also to see, what track or tracks would make the most sense to kind of do an A/B shootout with, as it's really hard to kind of go through and just listen to a whole album back and forth, back and forth. It's best to get some snippets of songs to kind of compare back and forth to and figure out which snippets of songs make the best comparisons. So I chose Spanish key, so let's start off with another thing that I also do is I try to level match the two titles, or however many titles I have, to make sure that when I do the A/B comparisons and I play them back, that they at least are very close in volume level as I can. And in this case, the One Step actually was cut at a little bit of a softer level, which was a little bit surprising, but not too surprising. One of the big things I want to make mention of also about this One Step, and it should be no surprise to any that know about the release and know about Bitches Brew also, is this is a 33 RPM instead of 45 RPM. Bitches Brew would have been very, very hard to do as a 45 RPM just because there's some like 20 to 25 minute songs or whatever, and you can't really do a 45 RPM on that unless you plan on splitting the track itself up into two different sides, and I'm quite certain that Mobile Fidelity just didn't want to do that. So they stuck to 33 1/3 on this, so it's going to be cut at the same speed as the standard version, but it's going to be on the better vinyl, and it's going to cut out a couple of steps in the process of creating the final product of records. So put on the One Step to listen to, and right off the bat it definitely sounded great. Was pretty quiet. I will have to say that it's definitely not one of my most quiet pressings in terms of One Steps and super vinyl in general. It had a little bit of noise, but it was far quieter than almost any other pressings I typically have. I would say the only pressings that are typically quieter than that, with some rare exceptions, would be maybe some other super vinyl pressings that I've got out there. So pretty quiet. The sound stage was nice and wide, pretty deep, great sound quality overall. I thought that, it sounded really, really good. and I was very happy with it. It's nice, pretty even tone to it, in my opinion, also. So, you know, it didn't seem too over the top in the bass or the treble in any of the scenarios when listening through to it at all. So, sounded really great. When I put on the standard mode fidelity pressing, I did, again, Spanish key, so it was the third side. And I did notice that it was just a tiny bit more noise on it. There was a little bit a tiny bit more noise on it in comparison to the one step, but it was not all that much noisier. Although I guess in comparison, I was having to turn up the volume on the one step, and even at the louder volume, the one step was a little bit quieter. So I guess, so in comparison, I guess it is technically quite a bit quieter. So anyway, I would say from a pressing standpoint, they're close, but definitely the one step was a quieter pressing. In terms of the overall sound quality, I would say the EQ, it was really hard to notice any kind of a difference whatsoever on the EQ. So I would say that was pretty well even on that. The only real difference that I really picked out on, besides the quality of the pressing or the quietness of the pressing, was the soundstage had, it seems, a little bit better separation and better accuracy of placing the instruments in the soundstage. It wasn't a huge difference, but it was definitely something that I could definitely notice when I did the comparisons back and forth, and it was something I picked up on pretty quickly. But, you know, like, most of the instruments are panned far left and far right, with, in the case of Spanish key, the miles and the bass are kind of centered a little bit, mostly. But I definitely noticed, for example, that the the instruments off to the right, there was a drum. I want to say, I'm not sure if it was a sax. I can't remember what it was. May have been a guitar, and an electric organ, keyboard, or piano. Those you could definitely pick out better in terms of exactly where they are on the soundstage, better on the one step. You could still do it on the standard one, but it was definitely easier to do on the one step. So I would say that, you know, if you don't already have either the standard, or you don't have the standard copy already, and you're trying to make a choice between the standard and the one step, and you want the best sounding version, if soundstage is something that's important to you, especially if you're kind of sit down and really listen to these recordings, I would definitely say the one step is the one I would go to. You know, if it's something that you don't tend to sit and just kind of listen to, and it's more of kind of either a background thing or just kind of casually listen to these things, you can still get the standard MoFi Bitches Brew, and I would say that would be, without a doubt, your better value, because it still sounds great. Like I said, the EQ is pretty similar. Soundstage width and depth are nearly identical. Like I said, the biggest thing that I noticed was just the ability to place the instruments in the soundstage better. And I think that probably has maybe mostly to do with the couple of steps that are taken out of the record pressing process. So it definitely sounds closer to the master, if you will, than the standard one. So that's kind of how I break it down. I'd be curious what your thoughts are. I mean, have you heard different Bitches Brews that you feel are actually better, maybe? Do you think that the first pressing is going to be better, or do you think there's something better than all three of these different ones that I've listened to? I'd really love to hear your input on that, but that's kind of my take. I would say that the one step is definitely the better sounding of all of them. Whether it's worth the extra money or not, I guess that's all subjective. If you have the money and you really like the album, I'd say it's worth the investment, especially if you don't already have the standard version. So that's kind of my take. I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank you for subscribing if you subscribe. If you don't, would love to see you subscribe if you could. And that's everything I got. So I want to thank you very much. Want you to have yourself a good rest of the day and a great rest of the week. Thanks a lot.